I wasn't sure of that, whether it was 15 minutes or 45. I know we're closer to 45 at this point.
Yeah, I think we got a 45-minute call.
Okay.
So I got two questions for you. One is, do you have a process, specific questions that you ask each time, looking for answers in your sales calls?
I have not in the past. That's one of the things I do have, having worked with you this time, is I do have, I wouldn't go quite so far as to call them standard, but a standard start anyway.
Okay.
And then it varies a little bit depending on answers. But I am getting closer to a sales process. I have never had one. And I think that's part of the unnerving part of a phone call.
Yeah.
It was never the process. And again, working with David, he has process flow charts on it and some scripting on it and stuff. I haven't utilized well where I should. You have helped me a lot with the scripting of the calls and the questions. And I actually went and had one of the recordings you made transcribed for that very purpose. That there was a lot of good stuff in there that way. So I'm getting there, is the long answer. Is it in place firmly right now? No. It is progressing.
Okay. And I guess, what was my second question? Oh, it'll come back to me, or it won't. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not important now. So I do have like a standard process that I've taught to some other people that I've learned from a variety of different experts. I work with Sydney Craig Hart, who is a sales expert. Laura Gisborne, who is also a sales expert and teaches sales. Her husband, who works specifically in sales and has for the last 35 years, teaching a variety of different sales. And then Tom Stoyan, who is Canada's sales expert. So the variety of different sales support. Now, I'm not a sales expert, but what I do know is that when I teach it to other people, they become better at their sales. So we learn some of the scripting, but the process itself makes it a little easier. So I can quickly go through that with you. Let me just think, what do I need? I need something in front of me.
Tom Stoyan was another one of my huge disappointments.
Oh.
Ottawa. And for a year, I was just totally geared for it. And 2 days before he got here, they informed me they finally found a surgery opening. And I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
He sent me all his materials and stuff, but
yeah, you have to be in it.
I got the benefit of seeing him. It would have been magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me he was a disappointment, and I'm like, oh, that was
a disappointment.
Yes.
Not to see him. No.
Yes.
I've talked to Perry frequently, but I've only talked to Tom through email after that. And at that time, I was the programming director, so it seemed like a big deal to have secured him and then not get to see him.
Oh, yes.
Well, from anybody who was there, from what they've said, he certainly wouldn't have been a disappointment.
No, he is. Let's see. Is this one? This one will help. This is a start. So one of the things that I do for my sales calls, and it's what I teach. Let's see. I taught someone who does sales calls to sell websites. I've taught this to. I'm just thinking of the different people who are coaches. Who else specifically? Like, I think no one else is coming to mind of industry type. So, and one is they're both services, which will benefit you. And one of the things that I find very important is before I get on a sales call with someone is that I have information about them. Now, the hard thing about doing a cold call is that you're going online and you're getting on the phone and you can't ask them for information, right? You can't ask them, oh, so fill this out first so that we can have, that's why when you're speaking, and this will be the key to your speaking in November, is that you get people to sign up. So I don't know, when I was speaking in Ottawa, people signed up for an opportunity to chat with me. And I would send out a link to a Survey Monkey, and it's got a few questions on it. But when they get back on the call with me, now, did you do my Survey Monkey? You probably didn't need to, because you just signed up for this and you did the progression assessment.
I did the progression assessment, yeah.
Okay, I will send you a link to my Survey Monkey so you can look at the questions that I have for people. Those questions lead me to some very specific understandings about how their business works. It tells me what challenges they have, because I've now looked at hundreds of these, and I can see by how they respond what kind of challenges they're having, and it allows me to ask really specific questions. My goal when I'm on the call is to find out what their biggest what their biggest drive is in their life. So one of your biggest drives is that in 10 years you'd like to be retired, you don't want to work as hard, but you want to be successfully doing masterminds, because I can see that really drives you and excites you, right? And you could probably do that for the rest of your life if everybody took care of the rest of the business easily.
Yeah, I think that notion of a 10-year retirement was from spending so many hours sitting here alone in an office trying to work.
Yeah. So
that I'd love to retire from today, but
yes, and I get that, and I understand when business people tell me retirement, they don't mean retiring from life, because that's a whole different thing. Business people are driven to do something else. They're always building something else. They're always learning something else. They're always going somewhere else. So what is that something else, right? So when you get them on the phone, your goal is to get them to a place where they tell you what their big win is, and then what their biggest challenges are. So the questions that I was using initially, and I don't have the ones that I can't find it. I know it's sitting here on my desk, but I just did a little rearranging and it's disappeared. So when we talk, are these the ones I use? Because they don't look as familiar to me. No, I definitely don't use those anymore. So my questions usually they start with, so tell me about filling out the survey that I sent you. Was there anything in there that made you go, aha, or was it just mundane, or did it take you a long time? And so I get them to give me some feedback on what it was like for them to fill out that survey. The survey itself is short, but they're similar questions to what you had on your progression assessment. And I find that oftentimes people go, oh, I haven't looked at this in a long time. You really made me think about what that meant. And I just realized I've been working without goals. You asked me for my goals and I had no idea what they are. See, I can almost immediately start pinpointing what the problem is for them. And when you get to objections, the idea is you can resolve people's objections by giving them the answer to the problems that they already understand. But if you don't know what their problem is, you can't overcome their objections. And so most of the time I spend, I tell them, we're going to go over the survey. I'm going to ask you a few more questions that are similar to the survey. And then, you can ask me some questions if you have them, and if there's a good fit and you see that that I can help you, then we'll talk about what it is that I can do for you. That's how I start my call. They go, great. Then I ask them about the survey. They tell me that. And then I start asking them a question and I start digging down. Now, some of the things that I do wrong, or I don't know that it's wrong, but it doesn't serve me, is that I like to solve problems. So I'm a problem solver. Solve problems.
Okay.
So I often solve problems very quickly, and I can do it on a 15-minute call. And if I solve people's problems, or they perceive solve problems, because the problem that I solve on the phone in 15 minutes isn't enough to actually get their business to the next level, but it's enough for them to go, oh, obviously this was a really easy fix. I don't need her. So I have to be very careful not to solve problems too deeply for people to misunderstand that this solution is not a solution to get to their big win, to get to their retirement, to get to a full business, to get to 50,000, 60,000, 100,000, 500,000. It takes longer than 15 minutes to do that, right? So when I'm going through the questions that I ask of them, I'm trying to get to the place where they tell me, my questions are, so what is your biggest challenge in trying to get to these goals? And then they tell me what their biggest challenge has been. Interesting. So tell me, what is it that you've done to actually overcome those biggest challenges? What have you been working on? Oh, well, I tried this and this and this and this. And if you were to finish, if we were to be 6 months down the road and we worked together and we could actually solve those, what would your business look like 6 months down the road? And they can tell me that. Okay, and if we went 6 years down the road and your business just continued to grow, what would your life look like 6 months down the road or 6 years down the road? And then they tell me what that looks like. And that's the 6 years down the road, if you can get them thinking that way, that's when you can get the idea of what their big win is, what the big goal is for them, how they judge success in their lives, basically. And that may be that, 6 years down the road that they are a principal, or that they're no longer working in the school system, that they're coaching other people, or that they are off. No, I don't even want to be working. 6 years down the road, I plan on being retired. Great. What are you going to do when you're retired? Don't let them get off. If you're retired in 6 years, what are you doing? Because if you're doing nothing, you're dying. Do they know that? Maybe not. And that would be scary, because if they're not doing something and they're dying, that may not be a goal that they actually want. It may be. Some people just want to get out of the rat race, and they don't realize that means actually getting out of life itself.
Well, a number of my colleagues retired and were dead in six to 8 months because they had nothing to retire to.
We need purpose. We do. We always need purpose. And as soon as we don't see ourselves as value to not just to our own lives, but to our community and how we interact, and that community over the last 20, 25, 30 years has always been the school system. How do you create value and purpose inside your life? So it's a difficult, and if that's where they want to go, and many of them may want to, let's create the purpose for them now, so that when they actually get out of their job, that they have a purposeful and rewarding and life-filled living. So yeah, okay. So when I get them to a place where they know what it is that they want, and they can tell me what it would look like 6 years down the road, so I could easily do this for you. This is what the program that I run does to help you, and I'm speaking in your language. My program is built to help you get to a place so that 6 months down the road, you have this in place. 6 years down the road, you have this in place. You're not only supported by me, and I spend my time training people like you to be less stressed so that you can have a life 6 months and 6 years down the road. And so how does that sound? Well, that sounds great. And this is where they will have the questions. Oh, what happened there? Okay, this is where they have the questions. So if they have questions, they'll ask questions now. If they don't ask anything, so if you just sit and wait, they'll say, that's interesting. And you just wait. Just if you can give it 10 seconds, it's uncomfortable. And this is not that typical sales thing that the first to speak loses. This is give them a chance to process. And because if you keep talking, you will put your ideas into them as opposed to finding out what their challenges and their questions are around what it is that they need from you. So that's interesting.
Coaching has taught me that well. So
yeah, and the sales, the old sales school was that the first to speak loses. It's a truth, but if you think that way, then it feels like a competition. This isn't a competition. You're trying to help them. And it's the first who speaks takes away from the other person. And you take that opportunity away from them to actually be able to step up and make their lives better. You can't help them if you keep speaking for them.
Agreed.
Yeah. So this is where they'll probably say, tell me more about the program. And that's when you can say, this is how much it costs, this is what your input, but you know what? You could start by just coming to a 90-minute trial and seeing what it's like. And from there, I have really easy ways to get into the program, really work great. Well, what kind of guarantee do I have? Well, I guarantee that if you show up and you do the work, that you're actually going to feel better. If you don't, then it's a year-long commitment. But if you really aren't getting anything out of it, tell me, and I'll just say goodbye, and you can step out of the program. So you have to figure out what your guarantee is.
Now, do you refund at that point, or?
I don't refund. No, I don't refund, and it's not because, you know, there's certain things that I would do, but with the progression assessment, and specifically with the strategy that I do, it's a significant amount of work for me to do it for them, but it's a significant amount of work for them. And if I get halfway through a strategy day and I can see that it's way before I get to strategy that I can see that they're not going to do the work. So I would just kick them out of the program at that point. And you'll probably feel the same way. You'll know when someone's not going to do the work. If they get into the strategy day and we spend the whole strategy day, have I ever had someone who's, I've never ever had someone who's come back and said, this doesn't work for me, because they know they have to do the work.
That's my concern, is people who don't know me, whether they're prepared to take that risk. I seem to have about 3 competitors in this, and they are all offering money back guarantee, which I think is not a good thing.
Yeah.
I have in the past offered money back guarantees on group coaching. I had one guy leave after 3 sessions, but never asked for a refund. Contacted him and said, what's going on? And he said, I've had a problem for years. Session 3 took care of that. I don't need any more. Thank you. He was an ADM with the Manitoba government. And he said, I really don't have time for this. You have helped me find my answer. That's all I needed. So that's the only one I've ever had leave, and he didn't ask for a refund. But I'm
and he doesn't need a refund.
I'm looking at competitors here. Is all 3 of them are asking $197 a month US, which is $100 less than I'm asking, and they offer guarantees. Now, the one is working primarily on helping them get out of the education system into something else. But the other 2 are trying to keep principals productive in shortening their work cycles.
Got it. So I don't know that you need to offer them because you're giving them something, and they are actually doing the work. If you find that your people are not actually getting something from you, then offer them more. Give them something for free. It's not going to be one person. If you're not doing your job and really the people that are going through the mastermind are not progressing, then give them something more. And just say, you know what, I'm looking, this is my first time through this program. I've done this many times with large groups, with small groups in different places and whatnot. This is the first time I've run the program. So I'm going to give you the rest of the year for free.
Okay.
And, you know, you don't have to give them money back. Just give them more value, because as soon as you give them money back, it sounds like you're a charlatan. It sounds like you actually didn't really know what you were doing. But if you tell them it's not working the way I want it to, I'm not seeing the right progression in you guys, so I'm going to give you the rest of your free, and I'm going to give you each an individual coaching call for the next 2 months. So you're going to get 2 extra stuff, because I really want to see what's going on. I want to make sure that and it did for me, my mastermind groups, the first mastermind group I did 7 years ago, that everybody got great value from it, but I charged them less the first time through, because I said, I'm creating this. I still didn't like the progression that they had afterwards. They all loved it. They were saying great things, but I didn't like it. And I didn't want to run a mastermind group like that. So it took me several years to build a process and a mastermind group that worked really well with the way that I work, and that I could see people progressing really quickly. And it's because they had to have the strategy days up front, and I didn't have that. So that's what I had to learn from mine. And I just kept giving more. No one asked for the money back. No one thought that they weren't getting the value. And it was me who was, so be harder on yourself, but I wouldn't worry about giving your money back. And
Okay.
stop comparing yourself to the other people. You're not them. And they're not you.
I had similar problems with my group coaching program. As I just never felt it was doing what I'd hoped it would. And yet anybody took it. Well, a couple of them said, this has been so great, I have to go to individual coaching and see how that works.
Okay.
And
yeah.
So it was clearly working for them, but it just never felt like it for me.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So we are past our time now. So I gave you some things to work on. I do want to, so do you want to continue on? Because now that you already had the strategy session, I do have a month-to-month program that would work for you. You'd have to commit for the first 3 months, but then after that, it just goes as long as you want or as short as you want beyond that. If that makes sense for you, we can talk about that.
I would like to talk about it. I'm not sure economically it works at the moment, but
Okay.
I'd be interested in knowing.
Okay. So it is, it's about $500. It's just under $500 a month. You're Canadian, so the government requires me to charge taxes on that. There is HST on that. And like I said, you have a 3-month commitment. There are 2 calls a month, so we're spending one call like this, an hour long, and then 1 15-minute call. So we're talking twice a month to keep you continually looking at what that system looks like, what it is that you want to build to move forward. That your schedule is in place, that your calls are going well, that your language, that you feel good about the language that you're using. And as you're doing it, in particular, I want to make sure that for November, that when you go to speak, that you leave from there with a list of names and what to do with them so that you're filling the programs afterwards. So that would be my number 1 goal for you, is to find the ways that you get in front of people so that the phone calls become easier and not just cold calls, because the cold calls are difficult. Like I said, you can't send out a survey ahead of time. You could if you know who they are, but you can't send out a survey ahead of time. So it makes it more difficult to have that conversation that we just talked about when you know nothing about what their challenges are. You can still ask the same questions. You just don't have you're not preempted with any answers.
Okay.
Okay.
It is something that appeals to me because there have been a lot of things that have fallen in place.
Good.
Just over the time we've had.
Excellent.
I'm not sure it works economically at this time. And this time is still a struggle time for me to be doing anything effective with everyone off. It's a prep time more than anything at this point, which is probably where I need you most. But the notion of trying to do it before November does appeal to me.
Mm-hmm. So
I will talk this over with my wife because she's the only one that ever has a clue about my finances,
okay.
Unfortunately, and work from there.
Okay.
I really do appreciate what you have done, Barb, above and beyond, both for CAPS and for me on this one. But
okay, well, thank you. I would love, if you were open to it, I would love a video testimonial from you.
Okay.
If you feel cool with that, because I would, particularly things that you've said that helped you a lot, scripting your language, the comfort level, creating new, that things are falling into place for you. You said a variety of different things.
I actually should have recorded a call I made just before I went down to the Continental Championship, because you will be getting a call from Monique Casey.
Well, we've talked before. Monique and I have had a conversation.
You had a conversation, and Monique and I talked before I actually activated this purchase. And she said, well, a free call would make me seem like it'd be worthwhile. And so she texted me last week, and she said, well, from the sounds of things, you would recommend hiring Barb, and I've set aside a little money. I'm going to do that. And I outlined some of the benefits to her, but unfortunately, some of this stuff comes out of the mouth and leaves the brain at the same time. What I said, I'm not sure, but it was enough.
Well, you said a few things on this call. I might go back through this call because I've got the recording as well, and just pull them out into a written testimonial, because this is not the call that you want as a video testimonial online. But those things may be something that would help you with a video testimonial later. But I will send that to you. If I create anything, I'll definitely send it to you so you can check mark it or edit the way you need.
Yeah, that's one of the things I did learn from David, and I've started that too. But
yeah, awesome. Okay, I will do that. And so you talk to your wife and see how that works for you. And like I said, again, it's not a lifelong commitment. It's 3 months, and beyond that, if you need to say this is, hopefully my goal for you with 3 months, so we'd be September, October, November, that you have a list of people and that you're bringing them in and that you're actually making money on your masterminds by that time. In which case it makes it a little easier to understand what what you can put out later, but you can go after 3 months. So, and I'm still here beyond that. I mean, really, if you want to come back and see me, here I am.
I appreciate that. No, I have no problem if I'm earning money from something I'm learning to put it back in.
I know.
Revenue Canada seems to think I put back too much, but
yeah,
we're going to have a higher ratio between expenses and income. I'm trying to explain to them, so do I. But
well, Darren Hardy recommends 10% of what you make should go into back invested in yourself for learning and growth. But when you're only making, $50,000 and your expenses are 40, at 10, so you're making $1,000 or 40, $10,000. That's $1,000 investment. You have to be really careful about how you spend that. It has to, that $10,000 barely covers books in a conference. It doesn't cover a conference, right?
No, not even the CAPS one.
Yes. Well, it will for you this year because you don't have to go and stay in a hotel. You can stay at home.
That helps a lot.
Will I see you in December at CAPS?
I hope so.
Yay. Okay. I'll be speaking this year.
Oh, fantastic.
I know. I'm quite excited about that. So I think my speaking engagement in Ottawa helped with the decision-making for the convention as well. So thank you.
It was informative, and it made me personally, and I think a couple of people I spoke to, the same thing, made me aware of the lack of systems in things. And that's where a lot of my struggle comes from, is not having a system and process. And I think just learning that was enough to remind me that I have to go back. There were years I had systems and they worked. Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we have them. I know. I understand. Well, thank you very much for purchasing this. I appreciate it. And so does CAPS, because that went into your chapter's funds. So that worked out really well. It's been really enjoyable spending the time with you, Bill. And I hope we get to continue on. You'll let me know either way. And I will definitely see you in December if I don't see you before.
Okay. Thanks, Barb.
Take care.